And just so the folks at home know, before we hit record, the first thing Suzanne said this morning was, "I'm fired up today." So
good afternoon. This is your captain speaking.
all right, thank you, Suzanne, for coming on for another episode of Tuesday's Tips. It's a little chilly out there. We have a little bit of snow being in the middle of January. What can you tell us about the market as far as mortgages, interest rates? Do we have good news? Do we have bad news, neutral news? What's going on?
I think we have good news. You know, I'm dressed kind of for the winter. I'm a little comfy and casual today. But the great news, Jeremy, rates where I can report, and with disclaimers. Yes, you got to qualify, and you know you've got to fit certain criteria. But before you and I started recording, I looked at rates, and I could, if it was a 15-day closing, lock someone under 6%. Now, back in October, rates were in the mid sevens on a fixed rate. This is amazing news. The other amazing news is, you know, I truly believe that this is one of the best buyers markets that I've seen in a very, very long time, because sellers are negotiating again. Sellers are covering buyer closing costs. So let's take, for instance, that rate that's under 6 right now. You could get that rate in the 3s or in the 2s. And you might be like, what? Yeah, with a seller paid buy down, where the seller is subsidizing the cost of the interest. The good thing about that is that you can, you know, rates at, I'm taking a look right now, rates at 5.99, for instance, on a closing that I can do in 15 days. If you were able to get a 3-2-1 buy down, year one, you would actually be starting at 2.99. You'd be back in the 2s again for the first year. And then the following year, it would go to 3.99 and so forth until you hit the 5.99 interest rate. So these are exciting times for buyers. You got to fish through the headlines that are out there, because there's a lot of negativity. When there's negativity, that's one of the best times to be a home buyer.
Yes.
When everybody wants it and you're fighting FOMO and you've got lines down the street, that's where it turns into a seller's market. So buyers have a lot more power than they've had in a very, very long time. So this is the most optimistic that I've been in a long time as far as the market. I don't usually allow the market to affect my emotions, but I am today. Super excited on this day.
That's awesome. And just so the folks at home know, before we hit record, the first thing Suzanne said this morning was, "I'm fired up today." So she's not lying. She's all excited right now. And I love that excitement. You know, we generally stay pretty emotionally neutral in this business, but good news is something to really get fired up about, because it's exciting. And, you know, my primary business in real estate is listing. So you say, Jeremy, well, if it's more of a buyer's market, isn't that a bad thing for you sellers? No, not necessarily. The market has gone up so much over the last couple of years. It was unsustainable. It can't stay like that forever, because we would literally run out of buyers. So now we pretty much leveled off for the time being. Maybe saw a little bit of a dip in the market. It's still way up over the last couple of years. And the buyers that kind of went away at the end of last year when we hit over 7.5%, now that we're hovering down, you know, 6%, just under 6%, you know, with a 5 in front of it, their buying power has gone back up. And with the holidays over, it's like a perfect storm. Everyone's out and about. Now, I want to add a disclaimer. Just because it's a buyer's market doesn't mean as a buyer you can act like a spoiled little brat and demand every little silly thing under the sun. Case in point, I recently had a listing where the buyer came in and the buyer's agent, they had these weird demands, or I had some concerns which they could have easily alleviated with a second opinion. They refused to do it, and I think they thought that they had the only or best offer. And although my seller liked their offer, he essentially chose another one because of just how they structured the offer. So do we want to be reasonable? Yes. But if a seller is asking us because the seller needs peace of mind, because the way the contracts are written in most states around here, Rhode Island, Mass, Connecticut, if the buyer's financing doesn't work out, we generally don't find out until 2 to 3 weeks before your average 30 to 45 day closing. So now a seller has taken their property off the market and may have to put it back on the market. So it's a reasonable ask to make sure that not only is the offer structured properly, but their lender is confident in how the financing is done and everything. So you really need to be reasonable. Otherwise, as agents, we're doing our buyers a disservice. And as buyers, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you really like the property, now you're missing out. So that's my story. That's my disclaimer. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, you're right. And it's always good to hear it from the listing agent side, because terms, a lot of times terms are what matters. You know, for instance, before you hit record, you had mentioned that it was a financing offer that was $2,000 higher, and your seller took a cash offer that was a little bit less because of the terms, because cash will be quicker. And in that case, the buyer didn't follow the advice, because the buyer thought that they had the deal in their hands. Because, the market slowed a little bit. Maybe you disclosed to the buyer agent that there were no other offers. And at the time, maybe there weren't, until lo and behold, this other buyer reaches out, wants to look at it. And, you didn't have an official, the buyer wasn't doing what your seller had requested of you. And your responsibility is to negotiate in your seller's best interest, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And sometimes, people think that, because I'm offering so much more, and I can't speak for, specific real estate things. And maybe that's where you can help out, Jeremy, because you don't have to disclose what an accepted offer is, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, if someone's telling you, hey, there's something better on the table, listen to that. And especially if you want a property, because unfortunately, this particular buyer, I don't know, maybe it wasn't the right property for them, and they'll find something else, but they're going to miss out because your seller is making out with a much better offer for them.
Yep, absolutely. So I think this is great. The interest rates have come down. Buyers' buying power is up. You still want to be reasonable with your ask, so much that you're happy with the deal. If you're not happy with the deal, maybe don't put the offer in. But if you're losing out on offers and you're noticing properties are selling for less than what you offered, definitely have your agent reach out to the listing agent. Hey, what was it about our offer? Could you give me any feedback about it? Because I'll give feedback to agents, because at the end of the day, the better they can structure their offers, the more money generally my sellers will net in the long run should I run into them again. Instead of putting in the same offer that's going to get rejected over and over and over and over again. So buyers, it's a great time for you. Sellers, it's still a fantastic time for you. And let's go out there in the New Year's and let's find you a new home.
Yeah, we'll get everyone fired up again.
Yes, let's get fired up.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right, thanks, Suzanne. Have a great week.
You too.
All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Tuesday's Tips. I'm Jeremy Bailey, your flying realtor. Remember to keep your wings level, and I get a fly.